everybody. Welcome to Unpacked Radio. As you can see, Norris the Pope Johnson is missing tonight. So you have the First Lady Kim on board. And happy Black History Month. Of course, it's your favorite broker's favorite broker, Tineshia.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's your favorite DJ, the Underground Disputed King. This is DJ Smoke. How y'all doing?
Tonight we're talking about Black history and the effect that the church has had on Black History Month. What do you think about Black history? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm really excited to hear from both of the pastors that are joining us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to hear about the effects that they think the church has had on where we were and where we're going, right?
Exactly.
Because we're a long way from where we started.
Yes, we are.
But it still feels like we got a ways to go, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It'll be interesting to hear hear their take on how the church helped shape how we are as a people.
Right, exactly. How about you, Smoke?
No, actually, I'm gonna piggyback off of Tineshia. I'm gonna let y'all do that. No, but it makes a lot of sense. It's Black History Month, and we only get 28 days.
Yeah, 28.
So,
and then we lucky that leap year we get 29.
That's what I'm saying.
We get a bonus day.
Yeah. So this is the good way to start off the month.
Absolutely.
Talk about church. Let's do it.
All right. Tonight we got a special guest, a family friend, somebody I love to my heart. We got Bishop Dr. Fulton Parham, who's going to give us his intake on Black History Month in the church. How are you?
I'm maintaining. How y'all doing this evening?
Hey, how
Pretty
you doing?
good. Looking sharp back there.
I try a little bit.
Welcome. Well, tonight, we're talking about Black History Month and the effects that the church has on Black History Month. So, what is your intake on Black History Month?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that Black History Month is every month. Because if you look at it, we have Black History Month is 28 days, and in leap year is 29 days.
Right.
So they have given us, when I say they have, the historians of they have given us only 28 days to celebrate those who have made an accomplishment and was trailblazers within the African American unity as a people. So I don't think it does any justice for us to celebrate just 1 month. That's why I have a T-shirt that says I am Black every month, every day.
All right.
Okay, so both you and Kim mentioned that we have February and it's the shortest month, right? But I can remember as a child learning that it was chosen for February because of Frederick Douglass and other people that I think Abraham Lincoln, their birthdays. Well.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I agree that we're Black every month. We have to be Black and proud every month. But I'm not sure if that's the legitimate reason why this month was chosen. I'm not sure it bothers me that we have the shortest month, right? Do you think that those reasons are legit, or do you think the government was just like, we got to give them something, so let's throw this in there?
Well, when you look at history tells us that there were certain months set aside for certain individuals. There were certain months set aside for people to be praised. So when you look at it, if you look at Black History Month, it was given a dark shadow because you have to realize what holiday in the month of February is considered to be a paganistic holiday where it was considered to be a murderous month or a murderous event. You look at Valentine's, you say Valentine's Day is a day of love, but you have to realize what St. Valentine was. And when the St. Valentine's Day massacre was when people was like shot up on the 14th of February. So they're giving us a month of derogation and a month of horror. You got all this other things that's happening in February, but why not give us July? Why not give us June, like Juneteenth? If Juneteenth is to celebrate Black history of Black Americans on June 19th, why not give us the month of June so we can celebrate all 30 days in June to say who we are as a people?
Right. And when we first started out, when I did my research in 1926, it went all the way back. We had Negro History Week. It started out with just a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It took it was some political leaders and Kent the Kent University, they were the one that fought for us to have Black History Month.
I watched your last interview, Dr. Parham, but I am not 100% sure what denomination that you pastor at. What denomination is your church?
Can you come to the mic a little bit closer, because I can barely hear you, sis.
All right. So I watched your last interview, the love and relationship interview. I have some questions based on what I saw, but I'm going to hold them till the end. But what denomination is your church? I totally missed in the interview what denomination that you pastor.
Okay, I was raised Church of God in Christ, and I'm Pentecostal. I'm holiness. I believe in the fivefold ministries.
What's that?
I believe in apostles,
Okay.
teachers, okay, prophets, bishops, leaders, and deacons. There's no such thing in the Bible as a deaconess. Let's just scratch that off the book. There's no such thing as a female bishop. It's not biblically sound. So I believe in that fivefold ministry of growth when it comes to a church.
And only males can lead us in the church?
Well, no, ma'am. Now, history proves that if you go back to the book of Ruth, look at Esther. There was evangelists. Okay, when you look at what a bishop is, a bishop has a distinct title for his calling. The Bible says he that rules his wife. I mean, he that rules his house. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when we talk about a bishop, even when we talk about an elder, they are distinct callings in the book of Titus, the book of 2 Timothy, 1 Timothy. It talks about deacons. So no, I'm not saying that a woman can't lead, a woman can't preach. But when you say that a woman is a bishop, you have to go to the Bibles, and it has a distinct calling for that particular title.
So we are so far away from the origins of that story, right? We are so far away from the origins of their story. It's not like the women then were doing anything that the women now are doing, right? So as we evolve, as humanity, it makes sense that women are bishops, and it makes sense that women are able to lead. We're leading everything else, literally, right? So that's not the place where we should be counted as lesser than. Maybe I'm not saying this correctly. I don't want to like, that's not the place that we can't lead, because we literally lead everywhere else.
There's nothing wrong with being a woman leader, but since you brought it up, I'm also put it on the table, because that's just how I am. Number one, a woman cannot stand in a pulpit and desecrate a man when a man is supposed to be the leader. A woman can't stand in a pulpit and talk about that her first lady is a woman and they're lovers. So if we get deeply into it, like I said again, if you go to the book of Titus, when you talk about going by scripture, okay, what God's word has never changed. God's word is the same. God's word hasn't changed. Yes, we have evolved over time. That's why we have gotten to the place where we're at, where you can go into a church and some women apostles, the apostles walk with Jesus. So I'm not even gonna get in now. But when you walk into a church and a woman cannot respect you for your title because she thinks she is above you, you have some women right now who have the title of bishop. If you don't call them bishop, they don't speak to you. Yes. One you to bind them is one.
Wait, do male bishops not do the same? Because I'm a big title person, right? I'm this title type of person. And if you call me the wrong title, I'm probably not going to respond, or I'm probably going to correct it, right? So males not do the same. Like, you work really hard for this stuff. You work hard for the degrees. You work hard to be Bishop Dr. Fulton Parham. So if I walked up to you and was just like, hey, Mr. Parham, that's not disrespectful?
Sis, you can walk up to me and call me Fulton. And guess what I will say to you? Hello, how you doing? Because you have to realize, people who are title driven, although you work hard for something, guess what? At the end of the day, you still have to show a thing of respect for each other. So if you call me Fulton, I'm going to respect you. See, we look at that thing in history. We have come so far, but you have to realize, in the midst of coming so far in history, people still disrespects us, but you have to show them that you are above that. You are above a title. You, like I said, you don't have to call me doctor. Hey, you call me Fulton. I'm there. I'm there with you. Just don't call me late for dinner, and don't call me and tell me that my check is going to be late in the mail. That's all I have to say about that one. You know, but I do. I have, like Bishop T.D. Jakes. He started in the storefront. If you call him TD, he won't answer you. These are people who are title driven. I'm not title driven. And if I may ask, what religion are you, if I may ask?
I'm Catholic.
Catholic. Okay. You can't go call a cardinal by his first name, can you?
I wouldn't though, right?
Right, exactly.
I call adults older than me by their first name anyway, right? I'm still a very big sir, ma'am, title-driven person. I did 7 years in the Air Force too, so that might be another reason why I'm very title-driven. But I rarely use, like, we have to be friends for me to call you by your first name. Otherwise, it's the title.
Okay, and I understand that. And like I said, if you look at history in the church over the years, if you went to a church, to a Baptist church, say 40 years ago, and you asked them, well, what church you from? Like, I was in the midst of a conversation just a few weeks ago, and they were speaking about how people were so proud of their leader. When people say, well, what church you go to? He said, I go to Friendship Baptist Church, where the Reverend Dr. Willie James Sanders was the pastor. Now, this day and time, you have to say the full name, or you have to say something with the content of that name for somebody to even respect you. And what I don't understand is, we as a people have to realize where you have come from. We have come from a long way. So if you want to be entitled to something, you can be entitled to it. But just also know, if someone don't give you that title, you still respect them in whatever capacity that they're in. Don't allow a title to send you to hell.
Now, I do have something for you, Bishop, because you mentioned something about where we came from to where we are now. The way things are now, it's totally different, because back then, a lot of the churches, as I can remember, was the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? That's what we focused on in the church back in the day. What do you believe the church is focusing mainly on now?
Money.
Okay.
I'm glad you
see, my thing is this. I didn't know that I was coming here for the first 14 minutes of what me and sister was talking about. But yes, I do believe that the church today is about money. Okay. And I can prove everything I say. Because see, I had to jot down some things, because I had to go back to my childhood. And when I went back to my childhood, I had to remember how pastors were servants. They were teachers. They was family driven. Okay, they was believing building. Pastors today, they're going to build, but you have to give in order to be a part of the building.
So when did this start taking place to you? When did we start focusing on money so much compared to what the Black church need and where we're going? I guess people think now we have our civil rights, we're able to vote. So where did we start going wrong with the church is now just focusing on money?
I believe it happened when Dottie Peoples made that famous saying. She said, if the money is funny and the change is strange, nobody wants to talk to you. Then we had the Masonic order had to keep quiet in church. Then we had the NAACP was put outside the church, because now you got politicians can come in and get their respect, but you can't have the president of the NAACP come in and speak to the church. So we're looking at the mid 80s when you used to push Black people to go to Black colleges. Now you push them to go to every other college except for a Black college. So to me, when it comes to servanthood as a pastor, sis, I'll go anywhere and preach. I'll pay my own airfare, my own hotel, and my own rental car. Right. I don't care nothing about no monetary love offering. That doesn't faze me. I have a job. I make my own money. But you got preachers today will tell you, for me to come across town, that's $5,000.
Okay.
And a lot of preachers are going to bust hell wide open just for that entity of always wanting money.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Welcome.
Hey. Welcome to Impact Radio.
You're late as heck, but it's cool.
Hey, some people had to do what they had to do, and like they was in training for a while. But what did I miss?
Well,
I mean, you came in on some pretty saucy stuff. I like where we're at right now, though, right? So you just mentioned the 80s and how stuff for our relationship with the church, or the church's relationship with us, kind of changed in the 80s. There was so much going on in the 80s, though, right? Crack epidemic. There was so much going on in the 80s. Do you think the disconnect had something to do with the government? Do you think there was some type of government agenda to kind of separate the Black person from the church?
Yes, ma'am, I do. And I was in the mid 80s. I was in my I wasn't even a good teenager yet, really. But back in the 80s, I remember hearing them talk about how you had to, the government wanted to find out how much money you was making. So when they wanted to find out how much money you was making, they said, well, we can help you if you help us. And they think it was helping us was that 501(c). Okay, you apply for 501(c), the government tracks you. There are certain things that you can preach about and certain things you can't preach about. So if the government was backing you, there were certain things that you couldn't say in the Black churches. Even when it came to civil rights, you couldn't talk about civil rights in a Black church if you was under the 501(c). So that's where we fell off at.
That's interesting. Okay. Can you still not talk about civil rights if you have a nonprofit in the Black church, or if you're Black? All churches at this point nonprofits?
No. Because some churches are not nonprofit, because guess what? They believe in saying what they want to say. When you are under 501(c), okay, let me just say this. There was a meeting in North Carolina about 7 years ago, and there was a group of attorneys that came together, and they wanted to tell all these quote unquote leaders of the religious-based leaders what you could talk about when it came to certain individuals coming to the church. You had to curve your tongue when it came to, if you wanted to speak of something that wasn't in order, or you could be held in law of discrimination. So the government now is telling you that you have to accept 2 men or 2 women across the board.
Now I know I'm a tad bit late, but I do have one question. My question is, currently I've seen all the civil unrest that was going on the streets, and I noticed when everybody was out here protesting for all the wrongful murders that was going on in our communities, I noticed I seen more ex-convicts, literally thugs, that were out here about that life. And we were looking for some of our pastors to step up. And I'm not gonna mention no names, Joe Osteen. And and I noticed that my man Trey the Truth was on the streets. He had the boat, he had the supplies, he had the shoes, he had everything everybody needed. So why does it seem to me as some of these ex-felons and some of these real thugs are doing the work of Jesus, and the people who are supposed to be doing the work of Jesus, Joe Osteen, are not about their life? I just want to know. You know what I mean? That's a fact. You.
So when Joe's people see this episode,
you can write your letter to Norris the Pope Johnson, and I dare you to challenge me, because Trey the Truth was out there. Joe Osteen was like, I gotta drive my fancy new car. I can't help you right now. So I just want to know.
So you missed that part. You missed the part. Like when you was gone, he was explaining like what this is about. It's about the money now.
It's about the money.
It's about the money.
So
yeah.
So you can go ahead and get that Rolex and go ahead and get that Phantom. But when it comes down to help the people,
can you look at this? Let's look at the pandemic. And Smoke just said what I just said. Let me just say this. At the beginning of the pandemic, no mega church was lacking. Okay. 7 months into 8 months into the pandemic, guess what happens? All of a sudden, now we're preaching online. We got things now. We got Cash App. We got Gigify. They still are looking for money in the midst of a pandemic. My family can't even eat, but you asking me to send you my tithes and offering.
Talk. That's what I'm talking about.
You can't. You as a pastor cannot come on social media and give a honest word so I can feel encouraged to make it another day unless you put your Cash App up. How many times have you seen me preach on Sunday evenings and have a Cash App up?
Never.
Exactly. Never. It's about the money. Because see, like I said, when Dottie Peoples, if she never said anything else, she said when the money is funny and the change is strange, people change. All these mega churches, they have changed.
You're right.
They have changed. That's how we have dropped off of servanthood. As a pastor, I would give my last. But there's others who don't feel the same way that I feel. But before you became the big pastors that you are, you was a nobody. You was begging people to come preach at their services. And now that you are somebody, you can't give back. There's unrest in the street. There's black on black crime. There's police officers. There's police brutality. You will not come out the walls of your church. Why? Well, but when the Bible tells you to go into the hedges and the highway and compel man to come. So if you my brother keeper, why won't you come outside the church? You know why they won't come outside the church? Because guess what? They don't want to be seen in the social light giving help to those in the street, because guess what? They may lose a membership. And here we go. Let's go back to 501(c). It's a government entity. There are certain things you can and can't talk about.
That makes sense.
What else can't you talk about other than social justice, I guess? What else can't you talk about?
You can't talk about same-sex marriages. You can't talk about preachers beating on their wives. You can't talk about when a president stands up and talk about he want to touch the of a female. You can't talk about that in your pulpit, because if it gets back, then guess what? You will be brought into court. You can lose your accreditation for 501(c).
Wow.
Never knew that.
I never knew that either. So I got a question, Bishop. I know back in the 60s, we kind of stuck together. We looked out for each other. We took care of each other's children. When I look at the way the church is set up now, it's like you said, it's totally different. It's not what it used to be. It's not a unity. It's you can't sit in this section because this section belongs to this person. How do you feel about that? Because I've been in church for a long time, but I've noticed that when new people come to church, not say my church is not like that, but I've been to other churches. When a new person comes to church, they don't feel welcomed. They don't feel safe. They feel judgment as they're walking into this church house looking for something. How do you feel about that?
Okay, we have to look at history before 1865 coming up to 1970s. You have to realize we looked out for each other. If I didn't eat, and if I had food and you didn't have food, we as a people, we shared. We believed in looking out for each other. Okay, moving forward, you have to realize it has become about self. We have arrived now, and that goes back to that entitlement thing. Now that I done went to college and I done became somebody in life, a lot of people don't look back and give back. I'm just being real about it. So we have to look at how people used to give each other. You had the sororities. They will be out there feeding the homeless. The fraternities out there feeding the homeless. We looked out for each other. If you had a baby, your neighbor will come and bring you Similac. If you was hungry, your neighbors would feed. They would that saying, it takes a village to raise. It took a village back then, but over the years we have forgotten about where is the village and who is the village. You come to church now, you didn't buy that seat. You just sat there every Sunday, but you feel entitled to sit in that seat every Sunday because your grandmother brung you there and she sat in that seat. So it's a thing of entitlement now.
Right.
You are a guest. Now, see, let me tell you something. In my church, the ushers will make you feel as though that you have been there for 1,000 years.
As they should.
Especially when they find your first name. When they find your first name, oh, brother Cliff or brother Smoke, come on up here. Come, sister, come on up here. Sis, what's your name again?
It's Tineshia.
Sister Tineshia, come on up here close to the front. There is no such thing in my church as a seat that belongs to somebody. The only seat that belongs to somebody is those in the pulpit. And that's where the pastor sit at. That's it. The first lady don't have a seat. The children, no, it's none of that. It's no entitlement in my church. But you have a lot of churches that has entitlement. They have social clubs in churches. Just like the Bloods and Crips, you have church Bloods and Crips.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing in the Catholic Church.
So I haven't been a practicing Catholic in forever. When we go to service, we typically go to a Baptist church. I have a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old. They are going to want something a little more upbeat than the Catholic Church. Of course, the Black Catholic Church is going to be a little more upbeat, but the Catholic Church is pretty dry, if I am forced to be honest. So we typically go to a Baptist church, and I have had both great experiences where we felt welcome, and the church was definitely doing stuff in the community, right? So you get the little handout, and it tells you what day you can come pick up fruit and vegetables, and one day you can come pick up meats for like $20 for the week or something like that. That's the last Baptist church I went to definitely was doing stuff in the community. But I have been to like larger, popular Baptist churches in the area and felt like I was never going to church again. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So I agree with maybe there is some club, right? Some club in the church that is more important than maybe they think they should be, right? But you want people to take ownership in whatever it is you have, right? Like, does the church continue to grow if I am not here and I don't feel like this is my home? Is that not important?
The church will grow when the pastor tells the truth. If the pastor stopped lying over the pulpit, telling you that if you just come and give $100, God gonna bless you with a house. Bible don't say that. First of all, you get your credit straight, then you can go buy a house and a car. Okay?
Shameless Tineshia plug. www.
Let me put a little pin right there and back up a little bit. You was mentioning about the food, the fruits and stuff given away.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Those churches guaranteed are under 501(c)(3) because they are they have to do that by the government. You have to have a food pantry to give food out. You have to do that because guess what? You're showing that you have this quote unquote this status in society where you're giving out, where you're blessing others. And the government will help give you funds as long as you stay in their graces and you do what they want you to do.
Okay,
no
so
church.
They can't be damned for doing it and damned for not doing it, right? So
you're damn.
And they do
You're
it.
damn. Okay, let me just say the blessings come when you're doing what they want you to do. Okay, the blessings will fall when you don't do what they want you to do. Do you see how quickly Joel Osteen opened up the doors of his church when they had that big storm? First, he was saying no, 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 no. It took one phone call, just one, and then he opened up the doors of his church. How many churches do you know in the midst of a major storm will not be willing to open their doors up to the homeless? How many shelters do you know will not open up them shelter doors to the homeless during a storm? Because they're government funded, sis. They're government funded. It's about money now. It's about money.
Let me circle back to a point because I think I got you all track. I'm sorry. So let me bring it all back to an honest place. Now I noticed Tineshia made a good point about the good old 80s when it seemed like things were a little bit more about the community. And I remember as I was growing up in Northwest at Walter E. Fauntleroy was close to the mayor for life. We all know who the mayor for life is in DC, Mary Berry.
Of course.
And both of them were good friends. And it seemed like they were in the community. They were walking around the community. They were making sure they shake every hand. And when the Green Line first opened up, they took us on a free ride on the Green Line. They made sure every community center was open and available. And it seemed like these days and times, we do not have that type of bond with our ministers or our mayor. So how do you feel about that? And what can we do to improve it?
I think the way to improve that is to find out who's real. We have to stop looking at the money aspect. In the 80s, that's when crack hit, marijuana hit. You had them green sticks, them red sticks. You had blunts coming out. You had easy wider paper. So the money was flowing. And then that's when you have to look at, that's when politicians will come to churches once every 2 or 4 years and ask for your vote. And you never see them again. I'm not saying Marion Barry was like that, but at the end of the day, you had a lot of politicians greasing the palms of the pastors.
So I don't know whether or not Marion Barry greased the palms of the pastors, but he was definitely in the community.
Yeah,
he was in these
Yeah.
And you know what? And that was a good thing. That was a really good thing. See, that was a good thing because I have a question. Why do we see so much of the street in church now than we see the church in the street? Why is that?
Wow,
we see so much of the street in the church now, but we don't see the church in the street because the church has forgotten from which they have come. They have forgotten the struggle. They have forgotten the work of what the Bible tells us to do because now it's all about money.
And they scared now, to be real.
What do you
Exactly.
think?
Nah, certain neighborhoods, you think about it, everybody, they need security and everything. That's why I like Marion Barry. I saw him in the hoods of the hoods myself, like seeing him. He didn't have no security or nothing.
He had the respect of everyone.
Yeah, but that's when you're keeping it real with your community. You go in there, hey, I'm just like you.
Yeah.
You know, so I understand what you're saying. You have to be real. We have to be real out
You
here.
have to. And see, my thing is this. When a pastor or whoever can go out to a community and don't worry about what your title is and say, hey, Miss Sadie, how you doing? The pastor, the project, they know people in that neighborhood. They don't do that anymore. When I can respect you and I can call you and I can tell you who your grandmother is, who your mama, who your daddy is, who all the 17 children that you have are, then that shows that we are together. That shows that you care about me.
And you know, when you say that, that's one reason I think for me, I don't like mega churches because I feel like I'm a number. I want my pastor, I want my church family to know who I am. And I'm blessed to have that because there have been times where I've struggled and all someone had to do was look at my face and pull me to the side and pray for me or talk to me because they knew me as a person. And I think that's why I've always had a problem with mega churches because I never wanted to be just a number.
And there's a church in Dallas, Texas. The first 10 rows off of high tide payers.
Who didn't y'all call out tonight?
Shout out to the Potter House, baby. Shout out to the Potter
Who
House.
did not get called out tonight?
Shout out to the Potter House.
Okay, so let's go back. You said that the streets are in the church. Please explain what the streets are in. What kind of streets are in the church?
Okay, sweetheart. I'm Tineshia. I'm a choir director and I'm a preacher. Okay, anytime you can walk into a church and it's a female choir director and you can see her tongs or thongs, you could see the pastor's pecker print in his pants. Okay, you got people coming up in there. You're so much onto what's in front of you. You can't pay attention. You got gospel rap. I have nothing against gospel rap, but when you are rapping in the pulpit and you step out on a Holy Communion table, and you grabbing yourself, that should not happen in a church, because see, holiness is still right.
I totally
We
agree.
see, we see the pastors out here playing the lottery. We see the pastors out here, they are bed hoppers. You got a wife at home, but in the street, you got a girlfriend and a boyfriend.
Talk that talk.
That's what I mean, sis. So guess what? We have come along. You're right. We have evolved. We have evolved a long way. We have evolved a long way, because now you got in Atlanta, you got two men, you got the pastor and the first lady. So who's the pastor? You're right. We have evolved. So we see more of the street in the church, but we don't see people in the street praying for people, giving out, talking to people about being saved. We don't have that no more. If you say that you are, I'm saved, sanctified, and filled with His precious Holy Ghost, well, if that's how you feel, gird up your loins and go out and compel man to come. We don't have that anymore. We are no longer our brother's keepers outside the four church walls, unless you got what? A Maybach, a BMW, a Tesla, or you got six figures in your bank account.
May I bring it back to a calming place?
No, he's talking my kind of talk. So
before they burn down Rip Radio.
He's talking my talk. That's what I'm talking about.
Where did we lose ourselves? Because I know back in the good day, it seemed like, everybody was on the streets, the gangsters, the church people, everybody was all had one goal in mind, and that was for their civil rights. So where did we lose ourselves in the last 40-some years?
I would say entitlement. In the 80s, people started getting their college degrees, and if you didn't call them Dr. So-and-so, or Bishop so-and-so, or Pastor so-and-so, it came to me with entitlement. We lost our way because we felt as though that we have arrived. I may be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
I agree with that, with the entitlement.
All right. The first lady does have a few pictures, and I got a one at the end. But do you got the first lady pictures, Trump? Let's pull these up and see what we got.
No, anyone, it doesn't matter. So Bishop, I just want to, I think for me, this became real for me. I took a trip with my church to Birmingham, Alabama, to the 16th Street Baptist Church. And
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
These are some of the pictures that I took. And I think for me, it hit home, I guess, just being there, realizing what happened to those 4 babies that were killed during the civil rights movement era. And it just did something to me because, and actually the first time in Birmingham, Alabama. And so, you learn a lot of that rich history from down south, but I just took a few pictures here, just to kind of show everybody just some of the stuff that's going on. But when you hear about it, it's different, but to actually be there and just see the place that they were killed, it just did something to me. How did you feel, I guess, coming up in that era as well?
Now, since you guys realize I was born in 1973.
I think he said he was a teenager in the 80s.
Who wasn't there?
Okay. Let me just say this. I've been to Birmingham to the active church site. I've seen some of the Black history behind it. Let me just say this. Once you go to somewhere that has shown the struggle, you can feel it.
Right.
You can feel it. And me, when I moved here to Charleston and they told me what the battery was, and I went to the battery, I felt the slave trade. I felt that.
Right.
And a lot of us need to go back and look at our history from whence we have come. Go to 16th Street Baptist.
Right.
Read and see how them four young ladies, them 4 little girls died.
Yeah.
And if you have a compassion in your heart, you will feel the shots crying. You will feel the bullets. You will feel the explosion. You will feel it. You walk some of them streets there in Birmingham, in Bessemer. You will feel it. Montgomery, you will feel that.
Yeah.
But see, that's what we need to go back to.
And I agree because I mean, as you know, I've been down south and used to go down there every summer. But again, I didn't grow up down there. I grew up in the city. But next to the 16th Street Baptist Church, they have an African American museum. And when I walk through there, there's a maze that you walk through where you actually feel like you're back in the 60s, where people are actually shouting at you derogatory names, and it's like an image of them spitting on you. And I was with my church family. I literally had to leave because I felt like I was going to cuss, because I felt like I was in that moment. And I was like, I didn't want to cuss in front of my pastor. So it's a little off fault, but I could not finish that maze because I felt like I was in that moment and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So,
really real brief. You know, we got friends all across the world. What happened at that church?
well, as everybody know, they got a call saying that, hey, we planted a bomb. And so kids were there, people were there like they normally do doing church activities. And that bomb went off and killed 4 babies and hurt so many other people just over the civil rights movement and trying to send a message that this is not what you want. We want to keep this lily white, as I hate to say it, I'm just keeping it real, that no, we're not giving you your rights. No, you can't vote. And in that process, they had no problems killing 4 innocent babies. They just, I don't even think they probably knew who they were going to kill, but it doesn't matter. A human life is a human life.
Thank you. Now, we all know I'm a big nerd, and every Black History Month, I have to do something for us Black nerds because they don't like to talk about our characters. So every once in a while, I had to dig deep in my bag, and I was concerned about offending people this year because, everything political. But I said, you know what? F it. Let's go for it. So let's pull up our little nerd post for this Black History moment. This is the Black Racer. And if you know anything about comic books, he is faster than the Silver Surfer. He is faster than the Flash, and he is faster than Superman, all put together, baby. And he can go around the world in lightning speeds off of those little skis he got on his feet. So you need to look up this guy. He was created in 1970s, late 70s, and he is a beast. So when y'all all be shouting out all these people y'all want Black people to be, here you go. I rest my case, Your Honor.
So he always had skis. I never heard of him. So
yes,
he
always had
skis.
those.
I'm about to say
he had those skis, and he would go around the world in instants, seconds.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Dr. Parham, because we don't have a lot of time left, so I just want to make sure we go back because we talked about homosexuality. I'm sorry, you talked about homosexuality in the church. You don't think that, despite not agreeing with people's sexual views, that everybody deserves a place to worship, a safe place to worship? Everybody deserves to see people that look like them, that we should be around people that make us feel included, right? So as long as they get the word, who cares who they love, right?
Now my thing is this: I have nothing against that, what you just said, but let me just say this: at the end of the day, don't come to the church on little kids. It's number one. Number two, if you come to worship God, okay, the book of Romans talks about that lifestyle. So if you are coming to actually, quote unquote, be loved, be respected, don't come to church as a male dressed as a female. Mm-hmm. Don't come to church as a female. You're born as a female, but you come in dressed as a male with your pants hanging down below your butt cheeks. Mm. Okay, so my thing is, I respect whatever they want to do, but my thing is, if you say you coming to be saved, all I can do is preach the word to you and tell you what the Bible says. You can either take it or leave it. The Bible tells you, once you have heard the truth, now you are accountable for your lifestyle. You are accountable for the walk that you walk. So yes, you can come to my church. Like I said again, it starts at the front door with the ushers, which we call them gatekeepers. Right. If that's what you so choose to do, come in as what you was born as. Come in with your government name. Don't come in with the facade that you are you was born a woman, but you was a man. That's not what I want the children to see. And someone asked me the same question, and I asked them this: you have a 4-year-old daughter. What would you say to your child if your child seen 2 men sitting on the same row, holding hands with each other, and they kissed? How would you explain that to your daughter?
On behalf of Unpack Radio, the views of Bishop Parham and DJ Smoke about to be DJ Smoke about to go down that path. Don't you go down that path, bro, because we do not want that smoke.
I want the smoke.
No, we don't want that smoke.
My name is Smoke.
No, we don't want that smoke.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I know it's gonna be some foolishness, but come on.
Come on, bring the smoke, bring the smoke.
And Norris the Pope Johnson.
Listen.
Go for it, brother.
I want all the smoke.
Go for it, Whoopi.
Here we go.
I've been thinking this.
Throw that good government job away. Go for it.
Here we go with the foolishness. Come on through.
My job not watching this. Listen.
YouTube will be censoring this. Go for it, brother. Go for it.
I'm gonna put this in a clean way.
Go for it.
I totally agree with him. I always got confused on how do you go to church and just try to, and it's in the Bible. It is. Now listen, you do what you do.
Because there's tons of stuff in the Bible that we all know you have done. So if we want to crucify somebody for who they love, we're all going to be in hell together. We're all going to be in hell together at this point.
But my thing is, I don't know how to answer this.
It's going to be a good party.
But I
just say it, brother. Just say it.
If you're going to come to church, let me put it in the most clean way I can do it.
Talk your talk, Smoke. Go ahead.
If you're going to come to church, don't come dressing like a dude if you're a woman.
I'm minding my
Don't come to church if you a dude dressing like a female. I agree with that.
Once again,
what you do
the
outside
views
of
that was just now expressed
dress like that
are not the views of Unpack Radio and his viewers.
Well, I understand what
that's all I'm saying.
Smoking
Respect the
because
church.
Kids can't get confused.
Yeah.
I get that. Adults,
I would never have my daughter
we
around
can
that.
understand
They have
that.
YouTube, they have TV, they
Nah.
go to school.
Everybody, some people do censor their children because I have
I censor mine.
Sis, let me say this. Let me say this. It's one thing to see it on TV,
Right.
but it's another thing to see it with your human eyes.
Yeah.
It's trust me, it's different. It's different.
It
Psychologically, that does something to someone.
Yeah.
To see it on TV, you say, that's scripted. Oh, that's it. They don't have for ratings. But when you see that up close and personal, you come down here to Charleston, South Carolina, you don't worry about anything. It's on my dime. I'm gonna take you to the Battery. And I want some of them people to tell you where they hung the people at, where they sat their swords at, and where they took them at to sell them. To see that with your eyes, it does something to you.
But you know what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Because I remember years ago, I took my daughter to a Mystics game, one of her very first Mystics game, because she was thinking about playing basketball.
Oh, Jesus.
Look at you. And I kid you not, there were women there, and they were kissing. And I think at the time my daughter may have been 8 or 10. And I agree with you. We left the game early because, again, I wanted to explain that to my daughter. She should not have to see it personally. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, I know everybody has their feelings and kissing or whatever you want to do, but I do believe when you have children around, you do have to act accordingly, because I believe that's the parents' responsibility to explain things to their children.
Exactly.
Not to have to see it.
That's
time out. In all earnestness, the Washington Wizards basketball team and every basketball team and football team in the world has a kiss cam. So when are we going to be offended? Because is it offended when 2 men do it, 2 women are doing it, or is it all offensive?
It's all offensive.
Let's not play these games.
No, it's all offensive. It's
so that's what I say.
Like, nobody wants to see none of that.
Let's not play these games. The views of Just Now Express are not the views of Black Radio, but to clean this thing up so we can still have a podcast next week. Dr. Bishop, in closing. Because we about to close this thing up.
Wait a minute.
Some editing to do. Devontae about to have a lot of editing to do. Last 10 minutes not going to be on YouTube. But
hold on. We had a good 50 minutes, right? We had a good 50 minutes. And after listening to all this, I think the disconnection between us and the church, you're probably right. It probably is people thinking that they are better than, right? Yes. But this whole conversation totally ties into that. The church is supposed to be a place of inclusion, right? God said, "Come as you are."
Yes. Whoa! Time out, sis.
He said, "Come as you are."
The Bible don't say that.
The church.
It is a order.
He said, "Come as you are."
It is.
No, ma'am. If you can find that for me in scripture, I'll send you $1,000.
Okay. In
I will look
closing,
forward.
I'm minding my business now. In closing, I don't want no parts of that community. I don't want that smoke. So I'm about to close it out in a good note. What do you have to say to the young people who do want to fight the good fight coming up behind us? What do you guys say to that young person who may want to get out there and get active in the community? We're going to close this out on a good note because Devontae going to have a lot of editing to do.
You better edit. I want to see the whole episode.
No, brother. You can go down by yourself. No. No.
I would say that it's time for the parents to step up and stop stepping out. The parents need to step up, raise their own children. Don't let the street raise them. If the children of today want to fight a good fight, the parents have to be behind them 100%. You can't allow your children to say that they want to step up and you're not stepping up with them. So when you talk about the children of the day want to step up, it takes a lot of prayer, it takes a lot of fasting, and the parents have to step up with them. And the craziest thing I've ever seen is when it comes to lift every voice and sing, 90% of the children today don't even know that song, but it's the Black National Anthem. So if in order for you to step up, then the parents have to step up with you. It starts at home. So if you want to fight a good fight, it's time for the parents to step up and fight a good fight. That's what I was talking about Real Talk Tuesday about 3 weeks ago. Parents need to step up with their children, raise their own children. Don't let the streets do it, and back the children in a positive way. We can't even talk to each other unless we're texting. We can't be at the dinner table unless we're texting. Put the phones down, put the game controllers down, and let's talk. So in order for you to step up, the parents have to step up and stop stepping out on their children.
Amen. Tineshia, where can they find you at?
Don't look for me after this.
I don't even know if I want to be found either until Devontae edited it. DJ Smoke, since you want this smoke, where can they find you at?
Y'all can find me. You hear me? I'm in these
Where
streets.
can Alphabet Community find you at? Because they're going to find you, good brother.
Hey, tell them come. I want it.
You want all the smoke.
Episode
I
full
want
of
all the
foolishness.
smoke. DJ Smoke _ENT.
Yes.
Come get me.
Yes, that's where you can find it. First Lady, where can they find you at? Because you wanted some of that smoke too.
You can find me at Kimberly Kiki Jackson. I'm on Facebook.
That's what I said.
You can bring me that smoke. Everybody know I love them. I love everybody equally, but I do believe in order.
Dr. Bishop Parham, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Bishop Fulton Parham on Facebook. I got Real Talk Tuesday and I got Tell the Truth Thursday.
And you can find me at
wait. Tineshia shouldn't say that. She's
this conversation. So we gonna be by our business.
Tineshia stayed home. She didn't show up.
Yeah, we won it.
We will see y'all next time on Pack Radio. We got another interesting guest coming up.